Welcome to another episode in Brit and Poland. This week I'm in Krasiczyn Castle. This was built kind of late 16th, early 17th century by Stanislaw Krasiczyn. It's got some of the largest kind of interior like wall decorations you will find in any castle. You can see a few on the tower here. It's a pretty cool place. It's just outside of Przemyśl, so I took a nice easy bus to get here. I'm now going to be rushing to get the bus back. But it's a cool castle. It's one of the like 6 romantic castles I've got listed. So please join me in this wonderful video and see one of the most beautiful castles in Poland. Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit in Poland. With this channel, I travel across the country, I bring you the culture, and I show you just how amazing Poland is. So I invite you on my journey. If you want to see more, I have Facebook and Instagram profiles, which you will find links to in the description below. And if you want to really help out, you can turn to my Patreon or Patronite accounts, again in the description. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Do zobaczenia.
Krasiczyn is a quiet village, calm, rural, almost easy to overlook. But this place didn't grow by accident. For centuries, life here existed in the shadow of something much bigger. This was a village shaped by service, by trade, and by the rhythms of a powerful estate nearby. And much of the southeastern Poland, it was never just one story. It was layered, shared, and sometimes fragile. Walking from Krasiczyn now, you don't get the feeling of a tourist town, it feels lived in. Like history passed through and ordinary life quietly carried on. And it was actually not too bad to get to. There was a bus you could get from Przemyśl, and it was actually a pretty short journey. I was recommended not to take an Uber here. But just outside of the centre of the village is the Jewish cemetery. It's one of those places where history doesn't explain itself. It simply exists. The stones tell us that a Jewish community once lived here, worked here, and belonged here. Today, what remains isn't absence, it's evidence, a reminder that this village once held more voices than we hear now. Places like this don't ask for long explanations, they ask us to stop and remember. A parish church has stood on this spot since at least the 16th century, making it a fixture of village life across the centuries. Even as the building itself was rebuilt and renewed, the church we see today largely dates to the 19th century. Part of the quiet shift from fragile wooden structures to something built to endure. Dedicated to Saint Martin of Tours, it honours a saint remembered not for power but for humility, for cutting his cloak in half to share with a stranger. In a village shaped by change, this church became a rare constant, carried forward generation by generation. And I believe there was some reconstruction going on when I was here. I hope it's finished now. So we're entering the castle grounds. And long before you reach the walls of Krasiczyn Castle, the landscape begins doing the work for it. The grounds here were shaped as a landscape park, blending nature with design rather than forcing symmetry. This style, popular from the late 18th and 19th centuries, favoured winding paths, open clearings, and carefully framed views. Many of the mature trees you see today, oaks, lindens, and hornbeams, are native to this region. They weren't chosen for spectacle, but for longevity. Planted to outlast generations, they give the estate a sense of patience and permanence. And water plays a quiet but important role here. Ponds and channels help manage drainage, shaped movement through the grounds, and softened the approach to the castle itself. Reflections replace fortifications, a deliberate contrast to what lies ahead. Scattered buildings, walls and gates hint at the estate's working life. These were not ornamental leftovers, but functional spaces, storage, service, control, the unseen machinery behind noble life. What's striking is how little this landscape tries to impress. Instead, it slows you down. It encourages approach rather than arrival, as if the castle was meant to be discovered gradually and not revealed all at once. And then the grounds begin to open, the trees thin, the paths straighten, and the estate stops feeling like nature and starts feeling like power. And yeah, I mean, I made sure to explore these grounds extensively when I was there, and it was a fun little diversion. It may have had something to do with the fact that I was waiting maybe an hour or so for the castle to open before I could take a tour. The castle itself is a museum / hotel, like a lot of castles. But the museum is a guided tour only, and you have access to certain rooms, which we will go into. I think this was an English oak. But definitely there's a certain sense of magic to this place, and you do feel like you're stepping into another world. But we're getting towards the castle now, so let's talk about that. Krasiczyn Castle is impossible to miss, but it was never designed to be simply intimidating. Built at the turn of the 17th century, this was as much a statement of culture and ambition as it was of defence. Unlike medieval castles built for siege warfare, Krasiczyn belongs to a later era, an era where power was displayed through architecture, symbolism, and control of space, not just thick walls. The castle is arranged around a square courtyard, with 4 distinctive towers anchoring each corner. Each one was given a symbolic identity linked to ideas of faith, royalty, nobility, and the state. This wasn't random decoration, it was a deliberate attempt to turn architecture into ideology. And what makes Krasiczyn unique is the sheer scale of its decorative ambition. The exterior walls were once covered with elaborate reliefs, coats of arms, and ornamental detail, transforming the castle into a kind of stone manifesto. Rather than hiding behind the landscape, the castle dominates it. After the slow approach through trees and water, this sudden symmetry feels intentional. Nature gives way to order, and order gives way to authority. And from the outside, Krasiczyn tells us exactly what its builders wanted to be seen as: cultured, powerful, and firmly in control. But to understand this place, what it really was, you have to step inside. So Krasiczyn Castle was built at the turn of the 17th century by the Krasiczyn family, one of the most ambitious noble families of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. And this wasn't just a residence, it was a declaration of status, loyalty, and cultural sophistication. The driving force behind the castle was Stanislaw Krasiczyn, later continued by his son Marcin Krasiczyn. They chose a style that blended Renaissance elegance with symbolic messaging, reflecting a world where power was expressed through ideas as much as arms. And at this time, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was one of Europe's great powers. Its nobility saw themselves not as subjects, but as political actors, educated, influential, and deeply conscious of image. Krasiczyn was built to reflect that mindset. And after the Krasiczyn family, the castle passed through the hands of several noble owners over the centuries. Wars, petitions, and political upheaval took their toll. The castle declined, was damaged, and at times narrowly avoided ruin. What we see today is not just the work of one family, but the result of survival, restoration, preservation, and a recognition that this place represented something rare, even by Polish standards. One of the most distinctive features of the Krasiczyn Castle is its four corner towers, each given a symbolic role rather than a purely military one. They were conceived as representations of the pillars of the world the builders believed in: faith, royal authority, noble power, and the state itself. This wasn't accidental decoration. The castle was designed as a kind of ordered universe where religion, politics, and social hierarchy all had their place, clearly defined and visibly reinforced in stone. Rather than chaos or defense alone, Krasiczyn presents balance, a world that made sense to its owners, stable, structured, and divinely sanctioned. So we're going to start going to the interiors of the castle now. We're going to take the tour that I consider myself very lucky. I think it was something like 40 zloty to join the tour. You paid at the gate when you entered the complex. And we're going to start in the chapel. So the chapel was not only a place of worship, but also a place of burial. Members of the castle's owners, the Krasiczyn family, were laid to rest here, binding faith, family, and legacy within the same walls. Among them was Anna Krasiczyn, a noblewoman whose memory is closely tied to this space. Her presence reminds us that Krasiczyn was never just about power or architecture. It was about lineage, belief, and remembrance. It's perhaps no coincidence that local legend connects Anna to the castle's ghost story. Visitors and staff have long spoken of a woman in white, seen near the chapel or in quiet corridors, most often in the evening. She isn't described as frightening, more as a presence, calm, sorrowful, and deeply bound to the place. Whether folklore or imagination, it feels like a memory that never quite learned to leave. And beyond the chapel, the castle opens into spaces that were far more practical. These were rooms of daily life, conversation, administration, and routine. And while the exterior speaks loudly about power and symbolism, these interiors are quieter. They remind us that Krasiczyn wasn't just designed to impress visitors, it was designed to function. So other rooms were intended to be seen, spaces of representation where status was reinforced through decoration, scale, and control of space. Here, architecture becomes theatre, carefully staged to remind visitors exactly where they stood in the social order. And with only a glimpse inside, it's clear that Krasiczyn was never just a castle. It was a carefully constructed world, shaped by belief, hierarchy, memory, and ambition. And like so many places in this region, its stones have outlived the people who built them, but not the ideas they left behind. And like many great residences of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Krasiczyn Castle did not pass through history untouched. With wars, partitions, political upheaval, it gradually stripped it of its original role. Owners changed, maintenance declined, and for long periods the castle stood vulnerable to decay. By the 20th century, parts of Krasiczyn were badly damaged, and its future was uncertain. What we see today is the result of extensive restoration, a deliberate effort to stabilise, rebuild, and preserve one of Poland's most distinctive royal residences. Importantly, this wasn't about freezing the castle in time. It was about ensuring that its layers of history, ambition, belief, decline, and memory were not lost. And in a region shaped by loss and rebuilding, Krasiczyn endures, not unchanged, but remembered.